Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti from AnthonyMorganti.com. This is episode 26 of the video series where I critique and process your image. In this episode, we're taking a look at this image from Konstantin. Am I pronouncing your name right? I doubt it, but it's right here. This person here. Thank you for sending me in your image, and we're going to see what we could do with it. Now, I got a confession to make. This is obviously a sunset image. I don't shoot a lot of sunset images. I just don't. I'm one of the, I guess, few photographers in the world that doesn't rush out and get that beautiful sunset. Uh, Everyone's shooting sunsets, I guess. I don't know. I try to gravitate towards things that a lot of people don't do, I guess. But um, still, beautiful images when you could get a nice sunset, and it's probably something I should shoot more. So with that said, I don't think I could make a great image with this in Lightroom. The only way I think I'm going to be able to make a nice image with this is by using Photoshop. So we're going to do some exposure blending in Photoshop, but I'm going to process it in Lightroom to a point, and you'll see my workflow for how I would approach something like this. Now, as far as the composition, outside of it being crooked, I like the composition a lot. We have this line of the shoreline coming from the diagonal and it's leading us through the image. So that's really nice. So very well done there. The main thing, obviously, that's wrong with it is it's just so crooked. Uh, Really, everyone, this is the probably one of the top flaws I see with beginning photographers. I don't know what stage of photography Constantine's in right with his photography, but when people are first starting, they're not very careful about making sure that their camera's nice and level. So it's really important to make sure that you have your camera level. You don't want to always be correcting this thing in post and having to crop the image and lose some of those valuable pixels that you spent all the money on the high pixel camera to get. So be careful with making sure that your image is nice and straight. We will fix this obviously in post. Now, as far as the camera settings, they're fine. 17 millimeter, wide open lens. He's at, yeah, I don't know which lens this is and what the actual, might be able to find over here if I go to lens corrections and enable them. Okay, it's a Sigma, at least it's coming up with a Sigma f at 2.8 to 4. So we're at f11. That's a little stopped down a little bit, quite a bit. But it's okay. You're not stopped down so much that you're starting to approach, getting lens diffraction. And it's stopped down enough where we have a lot of depth of field. You can see how this ice chunk in the foreground is nicely in focus, and everything back here, of course, is in focus. So it's okay. But 1/60th of a second at f11, ISO 100, the settings are fine. Focus, if it was me, I'd probably focus like maybe right in here somewhere. And we could go over the library module and we could go to plugin extras, then down to show focus points. And this is a plugin that's free that you could get for um, Lightroom, and it works with most Nikon, most Canon, and very few Sony cameras. And you can see that it's focused, used these 4 focus points right here. So that's good. I mean, it focused in that relative area that I mentioned where I would have focused. So that looks good. So let's figure out what we're going to do. I mentioned that we're going to do some exposure blending in Photoshop, and there's all different ways to do that. And probably the most, well, I'm not going to say the most common way, but I think the best way is luminosity masks. But luminosity masks for something like this, I don't think would work as well. And there's an easier way. Luminosity masks work really well when there's a lot of dynamic range in the image. So you have a lot of varying tones, a lot of different values of bright, a lot of different values of midtone, and a lot of different values of shadow. In this case here, we really don't have a lot of different values of those different types of tones in the image. We have the bright area towards the sky and we have darker area towards the foreground and not a lot in between. So we're going to do an easier type of exposure blending. But what we're going to do is process it in Lightroom first. And I already did lens correction, so I'm going to straighten the image. And I'm just going to eyeball it the way I do it usually, something like that. and then I'll hit enter and take a look at it. And a lot of times you could just hit F on your keyboard and get it full screen, and it might help you see that you have it straight. And this is a hard image to really make sure that you have straight. Whenever you have a lot of diagonal line coming through it, and here we have strong diagonal line coming through it, and then you really don't have a flat horizon. We have like stuff over here. The whole left side of the image where this ice chunk is raised higher than what's over on the right side of the image. So it's really hard to make sure that you really have it straight. So, to me, as I glance at it, it might be that this side is a touch lower still, but it's really hard to say. I'm going to say that's okay though. I mean, most people that didn't see the crooked image and just see this image probably will think this is straight. So a lot of times I find that if you start laboring on making sure it's perfectly straight by, micrometers, is you're overthinking it. Most people won't even notice. So I think that's okay. Now, the way I'm going to process it, I'm processing it in mind that I'm going to do some exposure blending in Photoshop. So I'm really gotta pick the part I'm gonna expose for. Then we're gonna make two more copies, and either those two copies we're either gonna make lighter or darker, depending on how I process this base copy. So I'm gonna process this base copy for the sky, so that the sky looks proper. And then we're gonna make two copies that are brighter. And you'll see what I mean when I get to it. So I'm going to bring highlights down, and really all I'm looking at probably is the sky and maybe the reflections in the water of the sky. So I'm just going to bring highlights down is all I really got to do there. Maybe I'll bring whites up a little bit. Kind of makes that look nice. Let's see what we can do. Bring blacks down a little bit. I'm going to bring vibrance up not too much. It's really a colorful image, so maybe to +5. We'll bring clarity up. I'm not going to add, maybe I will. Let's see. Let's add some contrast. Medium and strong. Let's go with medium. Don't want to go too crazy on contrast yet. You'll see as I get into the process here that I might have to, once we do exposure blending in Photoshop and we bring it back in Lightroom, we might have to do more processing in Lightroom. And a lot of times when you do exposure blending, it really flattens the image and you lose a lot of contrast. And then you have to add it again. So we'll see. Looks okay. I'm really now, again, just exposing for the sky or processing for the sky. We'll come in and we'll look at noise. There is a considerable amount of noise, so we'll go to detail and let's bring it up to 50. 50 looks pretty good. Bring it down to 40. And 40 looks pretty good actually too. And let's go to 30 then. And we're starting to get some noise at 30. Let's go 35. This is what I do, kind of narrow it in. 35 still has some noise. Let's go to 40. All right, 40 looks good. Zoom out. There's not a lot in here that needs to be sharpened. I mean, really. I'll just put sharpening at 40 and mask out the sky by holding the Alt or Option key in and moving the slider to the right, this masking slider to the right. Whatever is white is being sharpened, whatever is black is not being sharpened. And that looks good for sharpening. Okay, we did lens corrections. I'm not going to do any vignette yet. Okay, so the more I'm looking at it, the more it's looking crooked too. But I'm going to leave it as is. I'm sure a lot of you guys have opinions, but we can straighten it later too. All right, so we have it processed for the sky. So I'm going to create a virtual copy. So I'm going to right-click on the image and I'm going to go down to create a virtual copy. And this virtual copy, I'm going to open up the basic panel and I'm going to bring exposure up till I think the midtones are properly exposed. Okay, so right around there. All right, now I'm going to create another virtual copy by right-clicking on it, and I'm going to go to Create Virtual Copy. And now this one, I'm going to bring exposure up even higher so I get the shadows brighter. Okay, so we have nice brighter ice down in here. Okay, so now we have these three versions of the image. We have this one that was just processed for the sky, this one which is processed more for the midtones, and that one which is processed more for the shadows. So I want to select them all, so I'm going to click on the first one, hold the Shift key in, and click on the last one. Then I'm going to just right click on them, and then I'm going to go up to Edit In, and then way down at the bottom is Open as Layers in Photoshop. So that will take those three images. Now, two of them are virtual copies, so Lightroom's actually going to create a temporary uh, TIFF file, probably. It might create a PSD, I'm not even sure. So it's just going to take a second while it does that. And then open them up eventually as layers in Photoshop. Then we have to arrange them a specific way once they load. Okay, right now we have the brightest one on the bottom, the more mid-tone one on the top, and the darker one on, or the above that, and then the darker one in the very top. So what we need is we need the light one on the very top, and we need the normal one on the bottom and the dark one in the middle. So that's what we need now. So we're going to turn off each of these layers. So we're on the layer that's process more for the midtones. This is kind of our base layer. Now what we're going to do is we're going to click on the middle one, which is the very dark one that's processed for the sky. And we're going to add a layer mask to it. So I'm going to go down here and I'm adding a layer mask to it. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go up to layer, and I'm sorry, we're going to go to image, apply image. I haven't done this in a while, so bear with me. Image, apply image. And what we want is these settings here. We want the source image to be this, what's clicked on. We want the blending mode to be multiply. We want the opacity 100%. So just like this, and we're going to click OK. Now when I turn this on, you'll see that we have our sky blended in. Okay, so we'll keep that off for now. We'll go back up to the top one, and we're going to get a mask for that. We're going to go to Image, Apply Image, and we have the same settings, but we're going to invert it. So this time we're really affecting the shadows, and we're going to click OK. Now, there's our sky, and there is now the shadows. Now you can see that it really, in my opinion, adversely affected the sky and the water. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this mask, and as you look at the mask, you can see that, it's got the white parts are what are being let through, and the black parts are what are being blocked. We want to block more of what this layer is adding to the sky and the water. So we want to paint in black. So we're going to get a brush, which I have actually active right now. It's going to be a normal brush. We're going to put opacity at 50. It's cumulative, so every time I brush, it's like adding 50%. And we're going to paint in black. So we're going to just paint over this area here. And I want a relatively soft brush, which we have, all right? So we'll add another like that. And then we'll kind of add some more like that. And then it's pretty much black up here now. Okay, so I like that. So there is we're not really done yet, but there is our exposure blended image. Now I'm just going to go up and I'm going to save it. And I'm going to quit Photoshop. And this is our exposure blended image now. There is our original raw file, and then we had these two virtual copies. So now our exposure blended image. Now I'm going to process this. Right off the bat, we could add a little clarity that I could see. And I'll go to the tone curve and add medium contrast. And I could bring the highlights down just a little bit. And do I want to open shadows up? Let's see. Maybe just a touch. Vibrance. Do I want maybe just add a touch of vibrance? Double click, see what whites and blacks do. I don't like the white like that though. So we're just eyeballing it. So there's some adjustments there. Tone curve's done. We did detail before. So I'm just going to add a vignette to it. Oops. Just a soft vignette like that. Okay. And then that's our finished image. Now, what I could do is show you now. This is our original raw file that I just processed for the sky. Here is a virtual copy where I opened it up more for the midtones, and here I opened it up more for the shadows. And we blended those three into Photoshop, came up with this, which I did some processing here in Lightroom as well. Now, for the heck of it, I am going to take this virtual copy and I am just going to reset it. All right, so there's our original image, and then here is our finished image. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another virtual copy here, and I'm probably convoluting this video pretty badly. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to go to the effects, and I'm going to get rid of this vignette here. And just for the heck of it, I want to send it over to On1 Effects 10, which I think might help this one. So we're going to edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments. And in a second, we'll do a smart photo. All right, now there we are in On1 Effects. What do I want to do? I'm going to add a tone enhancer. It's going to make it a lot brighter, but I'm going to reset brightness. See, I kind of like what that did. Then we're going to add a dynamic contrast, but I don't think I want this at 100%. I'm going to bring this down considerably to like 30%. Before, after. So I kind of like that. And then we'll add a vignette here. See the soft one. And then we'll bring that back a little bit like that. We'll click apply. And let's go see what this one looks like. And all right, so we have a lot of stuff here. Here is the image that was processed in On1 Effects. The more I look at these, the more crooked they look. Here is the finished one. This is the one, let me double check. Oops. Yeah, this is the one that we did exposure blending to in Photoshop, then brought back in Lightroom, and I did some touch-up processing in Lightroom. So this is the Lightroom finished image. This is the On1 Effects finished image. This is a virtual copy that I sent over to On1 Effects, so I'm going to remove that. And then we have the original raw file that we processed in Lightroom. But I processed that not for being done. I processed that for the sky. And then this one we opened it up for the midtones, and I got rid of the one that I opened up for the shadows. And here is our original image. So really, what we need to look at is the original image, this one and this one, and go like that. So there's the original image. There's the Lightroom, the exposure blended, then Lightroom processed image. This is the exposure blended, then On1 Effects processed image. So that's the three. And the more I look at it, the more they look crooked. But, you know, like I said, It's a lot of things too. I mentioned many times when you sit in front of your computer and you got your nose in front of the computer, sometimes your eyes get numb to the color and you start making your images too garish because your eyes are just numbed from the color. Also, you kind of lose a little bit of perspective of like what's straight and what's crooked, and you really need to walk away for a while and then come back and look at it, and then it will look obvious. And that's what I would do here about straightening it. So that's it. That's our three images, and that's the way I would go about processing them. Thanks again, Konstantin, for sharing your images with me. And again, I apologize that I mispronounce everyone's name. Thank you, everyone that watches my videos, and thank you for everyone that shows your enthusiasm for this series. I really enjoy doing this series. Um, so thank you very much, everyone, for your kind words. I really do appreciate it. All right, that's it. I'll talk to you guys soon.